So MC, the structure of the departments is quite unusual at Sotheby's. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what your role is?
Yep, so Brooke Lampley and I are actually the co-heads of the Global Fine Arts Division, but we have distinct titles within that structure. So my role is worldwide head of business development as well as managing director, and she's head of sales.
So what does that really mean?
So what it basically means is Brooke is a specialist, and so she leads with that knowledge. I am a lawyer and a business person, so that is my perspective in terms of how I lead my side of the organization.
But it must flip-flop occasionally where you have to really weigh in an art way,
Absolutely.
And she has to nail it in a business way, right?
100%, and that's why we have a really strong partnership where we basically are constantly working together with the same mind on things, because otherwise it wouldn't work. We're basically yin and yang, two sides of the same brain.
So 1 + 1 = 3 is sort of the 2.5?
2.5.
2.5,
yeah.
Which one's the half? But we'll see. And your experience as an art lawyer, which you did first.
Yes.
How does that help you now or hurt you? Tell us about that development.
That was the first part of my life, my career. I spent 13 years as an art lawyer, and when I was an art lawyer, I spent a lot of time as the client, because I would come to auction houses with clients who were selling significant collections. We would do the whole, dog and pony show with all of the auction houses and help the clients evaluate what was the better deal and which was the best choice for them. So that perspective as a client has really been very instrumental to how I do my job now, because I'm constantly thinking about what swayed me, what worked with me, what resonated, and what are the important points that I think sometimes we lose when we're so focused on just the art.
I would say now maybe 100% of the evening sales involves lawyers and negotiations like that. When you started was what, 10% of the deals?
Probably, yeah. I mean, I'd say that was the exception rather than the rule, and now it's gotten to the point where there's either an advisor or an art lawyer in virtually every evening sale deal.
And why the change, you think?
I think that the stakes have gotten so much higher. We're talking about such exponentially higher prices than there were even 10, 15 years ago, that clients, when you're talking about a $50 million, $60, $70, $100 million deal, don't feel like they can spare any expense. They really need to be thoughtful about having every possible perspective as they embark on this. And it's a lot less about, just trusting the person that you're working with and making sure that every, I is dotted and every T is crossed.
Well, $50,000 on a $250,000 sale and legal fees is different than $50,000 on a $20 million work of art. So the economics.
Absolutely. I mean, when I was working as a lawyer, when people would come to me with $1 million painting or consignment, I would say to them, I'm probably not the best person for you. You should probably either do this on your own or go to another lawyer who perhaps charges less, because it just doesn't make sense if it's not an expensive enough deal.
And have the parameters of the deals changed in terms of the legal structure?
The legal structure hasn't changed, but they have gotten more complicated in terms of the kinds of things that people are looking for, the kinds of risks people are looking to protect against. I think clients are much more risk averse because of the stakes and the prices involved. So there are all sorts of, kind of different clauses and machinations involved now that perhaps weren't the norm or standard, to even 10, 15 years ago.
Unfortunately, 1031s are gone.
Yes, long gone.
That was a great part of the art business.
Absolutely, it drove a lot of churn, frankly.
That was sort of the old client services person who will help you with your watch and your painting, and they would try to sort of guard them as theirs.
Yeah.
Is there the person buying this or the expert here trying to hang on to them and maybe give them advice about art that maybe they don't know so much about, and vice versa?
Yeah, I mean, we work as a team. So all of our clients are handled in a real team way.
But not everybody is the same team player.
Not everybody is the same team player, but I do think that part of our culture is to really constantly think of what's best for the client and how to provide that client with the best experience. And if you know a lot about handbags, but you don't know anything about Picassos, then you'll bring in your colleague who is a Picasso specialist to be able to complement all of the things that client needs and wants. Everything we sell in our now sales is at the highest level of quality, and it's exactly the kind of work that we believe is representative of Sotheby's and our clients.
I think once we get from the bottom up more staff members that are of color, that'll change the dynamic, because the workforce is 98% white at the ecosystem of the galleries and the auction houses. Is there a concerted effort to how do we hire here to look a different way?
Absolutely. We've just established, internship programs and associate programs where we've made a really concerted effort to make sure that at least like 20 to 30% of those programs are populated by people of color. And it's been really exciting to see a diversification of the types of people who are working at Sotheby's. So I think that that's something that we're trying to build from the bottom up. So you start them young, you start them as interns, and then that will be the specialist of the future or the relationship manager of the future.
I think that's where the dynamics will change also in the market, from those people rising, getting opportunities that they didn't all go to Yale and their mom and dad weren't clients. I mean, that was the traditional way in,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely. I think it's a really good point. They're going to, much like the way that buyers are buying today, going to want to bring in art that really speaks to the realities that they understand, grew up with, connect with.